In today's video, we will be taking a look at my updated 2024 Senate election prediction, obviously between the Democrats and the Republicans. So on your screen right now are the safe and states from both parties. As you can see, Democrats at 37 and Republicans at 47. There are also two independents that caucus with the Democratic Party. So without further ado, let's get right into today's video. Now we're going to start off with the likely states on the Democratic side because they're currently behind by 8 seats after you add in the independents. The first likely state we're going to go for the Democratic Party is the state of New Jersey. Now Robert Menendez, the incumbent Democrat, won by 11.2 points, but the reason this race was closer than really how Democrats would perform in the state of New Jersey is because Robert Menendez was at the time very unpopular. His approval rating has now since been a little bit better, so I think he'll win the race by around 13 to 14 points. Another incumbent that will win by around 13 to 14 points, in my opinion, will be Virginia incumbent Tim Kaine, who won by 16 points in 2018. And I think he'll narrowly underperform this time, but I think he'll still end up winning by a likely margin. Another incumbent that I do expect to underperform is New Mexico incumbent Martin Heinrich. Now, Gary Johnson, the Libertarian, took away 15% of the vote. Most of those votes definitely would have went for the Republicans. And I think in this time around, Martin Heinrich will be able to win by around 12 points. So narrow underperformance, actually a pretty substantial one compared to 6 years ago, but this is because the Libertarian Gary Johnson will not take away as much votes from the Democratic or Republican parties. Now, another likely state for the Democratic Party will be the state of Minnesota. Incumbent Amy Klobuchar is very well liked in her home state. Last time around, she won by 24 percentage points. Now, although I don't think she'll win by 24 percentage points this time around, I think she'll still win by around 10 to 15 points, somewhere in the ballpark of that, and end up winning re-election. Now, I believe those are all the likely states for the Democratic Party. Now, Democrats combined for 43 Senate seats against Republicans at 47. Now, for the two likely Republican states, these are two states that Republicans currently hold, the states of Florida and Texas. Ted Cruz last time around won by just over 2 percentage points, but this time around, Democrats are probably going to run Beto O'Rourke, but I don't think he's going to be as popular as he was back in 2018. His stance on guns has been more strict against pretty much gun legalization, and pretty much Texas is a very pro-gun state, and they're probably going to choose Ted Cruz by a larger margin this time around. And for the state of Florida, this was a surprising one in 2018 when it went for Rick Scott. People were expecting Bill Nelson to hold on, and Bill Nelson lost by just over 10,000 votes. This time around, with the state of Florida being much more Republican on the presidential level, I do believe Rick Scott will win by around 7 to 8 points in the state. Another state I do expect to go to Republicans by a likely margin is the state of West Virginia. Incumbent Joe Manchin won last time as a Democrat by just 3%, but just 6 years before 2018, in 2012, Manchin won by 25 points. So you can see that Democrats have been doing worse and worse in states like this, and because Republicans do have some decent candidates, we could see Jim Justice, who previously was a Democrat himself, run against Joe Manchin in this race. I just don't think that Joe Manchin could hold on. He's not even mentioned that he will actually run for re-election. Obviously, if he does not run for re-election, this will be a safe Republican seat. Not to mention that this state is plus 40 for Republicans on the presidential election level. Now, for these are the final states, and these are the states that will be lean or tilt for both party. Let's start off with the state of Montana. For the state of Montana, back in 2018, incumbent Jon Tester, a 3-time incumbent at the time, now running for his 4th term, won by just over 3.5 percentage points. This was a very close race, and I do believe that Jon Tester this time will lose re-election. The reason is, in 2018, the environment was much better for the Democratic Party, and we see a much more polarizing environment in 2024. Overall, I just don't think that the Democratic Party will be able to win re-election. I think Tester will do well, but not well enough to win the seat. I think it will be a lean Republican seat for the Republicans. I think it will still be just around 2 to 3%, but still going for Republicans nonetheless. Another state that I do believe will flip to the Republican Party is the state of Ohio. Sherrod Brown won by 7.8% against James B. Renacci, but that was because James Renacci, he really didn't put up much of a fight. If you look at 2018, some of the polls showed him behind by 15 points, and if he had put up more of a fight, maybe he would have came very close to actually winning the state. And this time, Democrats will pour in a lot of money, but so will Republicans. And I think they have a very much fighting shot in the state of Ohio, and ultimately believe Sherrod Brown, though popular, it will not be popular enough to win the state, giving Republicans now at 52 seats. Now some more states for the Democratic Party. Let's start off with the state of Wisconsin. Tammy Baldwin last time won by 10.8 points, so she outran the Democratic junior ballot by 3 percentage points, showing that she is a strong candidate and should be able to win re-election. We see that although Republicans did well in some of the rural areas, they did not do nearly as well as Trump did in 2020. So I just don't think that because she is such a popular incumbent that she's actually going to lose re-election. I think she'll win by somewhere around 3 to 4 points, which would be a lead margin. Now for the state of Michigan. Debbie Stabenow did the worst out of the 3 Democratic incumbents in the Rust Belt, but nonetheless won by 7 percentage points. Now she is not running for re-election, she is retiring, and therefore this seat will be open, which gives Democrats one less advantage being the incumbency. She will not be running as the incumbent. Instead, another Democrat will replace her. Nonetheless, because I do believe that Democrats will win the state on the presidential election level, I do believe that Senate also looks pretty good for them, especially considering that Debbie Stabenow is still quite popular today, and although she doesn't have the incumbency advantage as Democrats in some other states where they currently hold the state to have, I do believe Democrats will be slightly favored in the state of Michigan, winning it by probably a 3 to 4 point margin as well. Finally, the state of Pennsylvania. Bob Casey last time won by 13 points against Lou Barletta, so he's definitely a very strong candidate, and I think he'll definitely run up some of the margins as well in suburban areas and prevent Republicans from running up huge margins in the rural areas. Overall speaking, I do believe Bob Casey will win by almost 5 percentage points, also on a lead margin. So Republicans at 52 and Democrats at 46. Now 2 more states remain. First off, the state of Nevada. Now in Nevada, Jackie Rosen unseated incumbent Republican Dean Heller by 5 percentage points. This was surprisingly good for the Democratic Party because coming into election day, this race was looking very close. It wasn't all that close at the very end. Now, 2018 will be a much more favorable election year than 2024. Nonetheless, I do believe Jackie Rosen is pretty good on elections, on electability. I do believe that she'll narrowly defeat a Republican challenger. And also because Democrats did win the state on the 2022 Senate election level, where they faced Adam Laxalt, a pretty strong candidate in my opinion, I do believe that they'll narrowly hang on to the state of Nevada. Now finally for the state of Arizona. Now Kristen Sinema, the incumbent Democrat, will end up probably in 3rd place if she chooses to even run for re-election. There's going to be a Democrat and a Republican that challenges her, and she'll probably get around 15% of the vote. Nonetheless, she was a previously registered Democrat, and I think the votes that will come from her will likely be at the cost of the Democratic Party. And I do believe for that reason, Democrats will end up losing the state of Arizona by a very narrow, around 1 percentage point. Therefore, I do believe Republicans will win the state of Arizona. Thank you for watching. Have a nice day. Goodbye.